oui, bonsoir. I'm Mademoiselle and ça c'est deuxième channel. And jeudi, nous allons parler de la Llorona. Now, for all of my Hispanic descendants, especially those from Mexico, should know all about la Llorona. But for those of you guys who don't know, we're definitely going to talk about it. Now, this is going to be a video part of a segment that I haven't really done in a long time called Fact or Fiction. And it is the segment on my channel where we explore myths, spooky, scary ghost stories, and things like that that may be fact or fiction. Now, if you guys have not been here before, never seen my face, what's good? I'm Yvana. This is my second channel, Chronicles of a Zoe. And I'll have you know that I pretty much believe in anything and everything, okay? Because I believe some things that we may make up or may think is true or not true, whatever the case may be, has some sort of truth to it at the end of the day. And La Llorona, even though often told to children as a scary tale to get them to do their chores or to eat their food or to get them to behave properly, I think might be something that is 1000% true in a way. I think she might have been either a real woman or is some sort of spirit out there that does go around punishing people, or is some sort of deity that people do call upon when they do need help or seek vengeance on other people. Now, I did kind of give you guys a quick preface of what we're going to be talking about in terms of what La Llorona is called on for and things like that, but of course we're going to unpack that in a little bit. Sage, there you go. Before we get started, make sure you guys smash that subscribe button, smash that like button, smash every button you know that can help a sister out. Peep the description box for everything that you guys consistently ask about down below, and let's get started. Now, shall we? Often referred to as a silly little myth, crazy story, or a completely made up ghost, a lot of people believe in La Llorona, believe she was a real person, or often seek her services to seek vengeance. Now, who was La Llorona? La Llorona was said to be a woman named Maria from Mexico. And this story actually dates back to a long time ago. Like, I'm talking about like pre-expedition days. Like, I'm talking about like, there ain't no date to it. Now, Maria was actually one of the most beautiful women you would have ever laid eyes on. She was so beautiful that every man wanted to get with her. Every woman wanted to be just like her. And her beauty actually made her very prideful, boastful, and of course, arrogant. So arrogant that any man that tried to talk to her, she was not having it, okay? She was like, listen, you're just not good enough for me, okay? She also had very high goals and high expectations, and she thought, you know, I'm gorgeous. I got all of this going for myself. I definitely have to be able to find a high suitor. So even though Maria was gorgeous, she definitely was not in a high wealth class. So she thought that her beauty would be able to earn her in that high position. So she was definitely working hard to get that. So like I said, any man that tried to get her attention that was not of a higher wealth class, she definitely was not giving a rat's ass about them, okay? She wanted the top tier, okay? What we call them right now, the high ballers, the high rollers, the high value men, okay? She wanted high value man, okay? And we're talking about the monetary kind, all right? She ain't care about anything else, and that is what landed her in the mess that she ended up in. So all of her efforts were not in vain. Maria ended up catching the attention of a wealthy, handsome ranchero who was the son of a wealthy rancher from the southern plains. So listen, she had hit the jackpot with that one. So you would think she kind of made it easy. She got what she wanted. No, she still wanted to play hard to get. He would sit there serenading her, playing guitar for her, literally trying to get all this attention from her, and she was still trying to act like she didn't want that attention. But listen, you gotta play the game sometimes, okay? Of course, eventually, Mr. Ranchero done gained her heart, and they ended up falling in love, and everything went well for quite a long time. It's actually quite interesting. Like, this man did everything to get her, and I guess didn't notice that this girl was playing a game. Like, it's really interesting. Like, the girl is beautiful, but she doesn't have any money, and you have money. Like, let's be real here. Of course she's playing a game, but he fell right into it, and he genuinely wanted to win her over. Won her over, they started living happily ever after, and they ended up having 2 kids together who were said to be 2 boys. Everything went very well until the ranchero and Maria became a little bit distant. All of a sudden, the ranchero just kind of stopped coming around. He used to travel a lot for work, but at this point, he just wouldn't show up at all. And he wasn't sending letters back home. He just didn't really care for her existence. And every single time he would come home, again, he would not acknowledge her. He would just be like, oh, hey, Maria, where the kids at? He just only cared about his kids, didn't care about Maria. And what did I say? Maria was very prideful. Maria really cared about her looks. Maria was very much so, I'm conceited, I got a reason. And when her ego wasn't being fed, she went nuts, okay? Maria felt as if the children were getting way more attention than her, and she did not like that. And to make matters worse, she started to catch wind of maybe there was another woman in the picture. So, of course, like I said, the ranchero was not coming around. And when he would come around, he would only pay attention to the children. Her envy started to turn towards the children, and those suspicions were validified when another time he ended up visiting, and he pulled up in a carriage, and there was a beautiful, young, wealthy woman sitting in the carriage. Now, let me just say, I ain't gonna stud, let's be real, if any of us had a man and he just not showing up, he only care about our kids, or he only care about everything but us when he come home, and then he pull up and there's another bee in the car, let's be real, we busted windows out the car. But you know, this is like long time ago, so ain't no busting windows out the carriage or beating a horse. I don't know, what did they do back then? But Maria was not having it, okay? She went mad. And to make matters worse, when he pulled up again, only paid attention to the kids, only acknowledged the kids. At this point, he didn't even say hi to her. So communication just kept getting smaller and smaller until at this point, he just ended up ignoring her. Now, the reason for this is said to be that he just kind of grew distant from her. He wouldn't see her as much because he was traveling, and rumor had it that he just really wanted to marry a woman in his wealth class. Like I said, Maria was poor, okay? She was beautiful, but she was poor, and he really wanted to kind of date in his wealth class. I'm not really sure why, what the reason was. I mean, it could have been his family. It could have been a lot of different reasons. They don't really give a lot of reasons for that or really offer much information about that. But basically, that's the reason. Or maybe the man was just a piece of shit. We don't know. But Maria took all of her anger out on her children. She walked the children down by a stream, took the children and drowned them. Some reports say that she stabbed them and drowned them, while some other reports say that she might have just stabbed them. Nonetheless, this treacherous deed of killing both her boys happened by the river. Immediately, she felt remorse. She felt sad, she felt horrible, and she threw herself in the river as well and killed herself. You guys are probably wondering, where does La Llorona come from? Why do they call her that? Which also translates to the weeping woman. That is because about a couple hours later or the next morning, a couple of people from the village were walking down by the water, and they discovered the body of La Llorona, and I believe the boys as well, and they buried her, you know, in this white dress. They buried her somewhere by the river. However, after that occasion, a lot of people would go down by the river, and they said they would hear a woman crying and weeping, calling out for her boys. And y'all, that is creepy as hell. Can you imagine just sitting by the river, eating a mango by a tree? You just hearing, it's me, child, I got time. I would have been out of there. But instead, they went back to the village, started talking about it. More people started saying that they saw reports of Maria by the water crying, but it wasn't Maria because obviously Maria is deceased, and that is what earned her the name La Llorona, aka the weeping woman. So the characteristics of La Llorona are very terrifying, to say the least, okay? She is often depicted as a very, very terrifying woman in white, okay? Usually with a very, very long white dress on, typically looking like a wedding dress, but like a not poofy one, kind of like a form-fitted flare type of wedding dress with a white veil on. Her face is very terrifying, and she will be crying in Spanish, looking for her children, often near bodies of water, rivers, lakes, pools, bathtubs, things like that. You'll almost never see her unless there's a body of water present. She is thought to be very evil, very savage, and getting in her way or having her be sent after you is not a good thing. Now, in terms of a spiritual level, she's thought of to be some sort of a baka or a banshee, something like that, and people often use her to do their bidding. She is often found in different forms in different types of religions and spiritualities, but mostly Hispanic type of religions and spiritualities. And y'all, let me just say, I know y'all got stories. Comment down below. Now, spiritually, and of course in a way that we can talk about this from a higher realm, because that's what this channel is all about, it is said that because of her disastrous deed of killing her children out of envy and jealousy and honestly hatred for her husband and taking out on her children, she's been condemned by God to roam the rivers for eternity, looking for her children and looking for lost souls to replace them. Now, what's very interesting is the reason I decided to cover this is because I was very fascinated by this story. One of my favorite shows on Netflix is Riverdale, right? And they had a season where Riverdale became Rivervale, and it was literally an alternate universe. And they had an episode where La Llorona was featured, and essentially in this episode they had a character named Tony that had accidentally shot and killed someone's son in the series, and that person's mom, so the son of the mom who she killed, had essentially sent La Llorona after Tony for the vengeance of her killing her son. And I was watching this shit like, first of all, what is a La Llorona? How in the world does this all piece together, and why does this look somewhat of a true legend, story, myth type of situation? And I started looking into it. I was instantly hooked. I watched the La Llorona movie. I literally sat there and paid for it on Amazon Prime. Like I dug deep into it, okay? Now, although a lot of people look at La Llorona as a myth or a legend or just some silly little story that people tell their kids in order to get them to do what their parents want, it actually is something that is 1000% believed by many people, and many people seek out La Llorona to do very fucked up deeds for them. Now, what was very interesting with the whole Rivervale situation is that Tony's child was really about to die. Like, La Llorona was literally about to take her son, kill her son, take his soul to the underwater world or whatever, and she exchanged La Llorona's life for hers. Like, she literally was like, I'll be La Llorona, just don't kill my son, spare my son. And I was like, what in the, like, yo, what I'm telling y'all, I was watching this shit like what? Yeah, like, it was just so fascinating to me. So every single time I looked into it, I was just digging deep, I was watching things. It kind of had the same theme, right? La Llorona is going after a child. Someone has sent La Llorona after a child or after someone who has a child. And a lot of you guys are probably like, well, that is some fucked up shit. How can somebody do something like that? You would be surprised. There are some real fucked up people out there. You got to be very, very careful how you treat people, how you speak to people, how you regard people, because they might just send someone after your kids. I've read a couple of stories here on this channel with people's kids or siblings being targeted by legitimate adults who just didn't like their parents, whatever the case may be. Be very, very careful, okay? Your kids are vulnerable just as much as you are vulnerable. If not, they're more vulnerable. So La Llorona is actually a spirit, okay? And even though a lot of people do not often refer to her as La Llorona, she is legitimately a spirit or a deity, a myth, a legend, whatever you want to call it, that can be found in many cultures. This story that I just told you is in many different versions in many different cultures, which is why a lot of people think that Maria probably was not real. It's probably just one of those things that people just tell their kids, again, to act right. Or it is real and she is legitimately some sort of deity or a spirit or some sort of banshee that people call on to do really bad deeds for them. Now, the story has pre-Hispanic roots, literally pre-existing to the Mexican conquest. La Llorona has been linked to Aztec goddesses. You can also find stories of her in the Florentine Codex that are very, very similar as well. And what's really crazy about this is these are not pleasant gods and goddesses, okay? In the Florentine Codex, now let me just tell y'all right now, I can't say shit right, and I'm gonna have to read. Because child, I googled a million times how to say a lot of this shit right, and I was just like, yep, it's not giving. Okay, so in the Shalikulaku, okay, the jade-skidded goddess, the waters, and the eldest sister of the rain god, child. There was said to be ceremonies done in her honor where people would honestly, child, this sounds so fucked up, where she would drown people in overturned boats. And the louder the children cried for their parents that were on these boats, the more successful the sacrifices would be. Do y'all not understand how crazy that is? Like, these are not some gods, goddesses, or deities to be fucked with. But as you guys can see, there is a connection to La Llorona. And when it comes to the La Llorona situation and people praying to her or asking for her services, a lot of people usually do seek her out for vengeance. She's often lurking around water, lakes, rivers, things like that. That's usually how she attacks. She will pop up in your bathtub. She will take your child. Like, it's a whole thing, and it is very real. You guys can feel free to look up stories of people that have had experiences with La Llorona. There are people that really do believe their kids or their family members have been targeted by La Llorona. She's a very, very vicious spirit. And even though it's probably not exactly La Llorona, it probably could be a very, very similar spirit to her, or something that embodies her exact MO, if that makes sense. So in Germany, they have the story of the white woman that sounds very, very similar to the story that I told you guys in the beginning. The legend of Medea and Jason is very similar in Greek tradition, and they have a story that sounds like La Llorona. The Lorelei story in Slavic tradition is also very similar to the story. So you guys see there's a theme here. So of course, let me know what you guys think. Fact or fiction? Now, I know my Hispanic viewers definitely have to have some stories of La Llorona, and I would love to hear your stories down below, because I refuse to believe that this is just some random story that they just tell kids. It's just way too specific. The MO is way too calculated, and I just don't want to believe that it's not real, because I believe in everything, of course. And just looking up the documentaries and hearing people talk about it, every single time I've seen someone talk about their encounter or their experience with La Llorona, it's like they are terrified, they are scared shitless, and I'm like, nah, that's some real shit right here. Like, there's absolutely no way it isn't. And if you guys want me to share the story on the channel, make sure you guys email crickcrackcoz@gmail.com. that is KRIKCOZ@gmail.com. I will read them on the channel. If you just want to leave your story down below and, you know, leave it as a comment, you don't want me to read it, just leave it down below. With that being said, comment down below, what do you guys think about the fact or the fiction of La Llorona? Is she real or is she made up? Have you had your own personal experiences, or do you know anyone that has had personal experiences? Let me know down below. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, do all that, and peep the description box for everything that you guys consistently ask me about down below. And I'ma see y'all next time. Bye!